Amy, would you like to share next?
Hi, I'm Amy Parliament. I live in New York. The accent is from the Bronx. Just kidding. I'm originally from Georgia. So my story began in 2014. I do diagnostic imaging. So I kept feeling an area in my breast and it was very tender. And they're like, it's nothing, it's nothing. I was 39 at the time. I'd had several mammograms before. I had very dense breasts. I never had any children. So the density in my breast was very hard to see through. And back in 2014, they really weren't doing 3D mammograms. So I kept pushing, and I was in the process of relocating from downstate New York to upstate New York. And I kept saying to a coworker, like, I feel like something's not right. I wish somebody would look. So eventually I came home, went to the doctor. I'm in the middle of the transition. And when I walked in, the physician made a face, and in being in medicine, you kind of are reading the crowd in the room. He's like, I need you to go across the hallway and get a mammogram. And when I got to the mammogram, they did the original pictures, and for the first time, it was like the fifth mammogram I'd had. They pulled out the paddles with the grids and the numbers, and so I began to sob, and I'm like, you see something. And I ended up having cancer on the bottom fold of my right breast. And by the time I got home and took a look at it, because I don't stand in front of the mirror and like dance naked or whatever, and I kept feeling, and they kept telling me it was a suspensory ligament in the breast. That's what I was feeling, and cancer didn't hurt. I had a fullness in my underarm as well. I went, had the mammogram before I could even get from the Women's Imaging Center to the car. They were calling to tell me I needed a biopsy, had a biopsy within a couple of days. And I'm one of the lucky ones. January 29th of 2014, I was diagnosed early stage breast cancer. We thought if I was aggressive at that age and did a bilateral mastectomy, I wouldn't need chemo or radiation. I woke up from the mastectomies, not able to lift my arms. So I knew at that point I had signed consent for them to take my nodes if they were discovered in the OR, and they were. And so this was, I had my mastectomy on February the 25th. My 40th birthday would have been the 28th. And all I wanted to do was get out of the hospital. So on the evening of the 27th, the surgeon came in and asked for me to sit down. And what they told me is I ended up having cancer in both breasts and in 23 out of 26 lymph nodes on the right side, which means now I've progressed. I'm no longer early stage. I'll need chemo and radiation. So right out of the gate, I was diagnosed 3C. I have lobular breast cancer that is hormone receptor positive. Been told by countless medical professionals that they think I have some kind of genetic mutation. So far, I've had a variety of genetic testing. Nothing shows up. So maybe at some point it will, maybe it won't. 5 years to the day, I was going to have some scans, mentioned to the doctor that I was having some back pain. I grew up with scoliosis as a child, so I thought the back pain was from the scoliosis, but the doctor's like, let's just give it a quick look-see. And I was going back for the 5-year checkup thinking that they were going to remove my port, because I kept my port for the first 5 years. And the scans came back and showed that there was a lesion on my spine. So then we biopsied it, and it was metastatic breast cancer. So I'm bone only. I was diagnosed 5 years to the day of my early stage diagnosis, metastatic. Again, it had lobular properties in the bone. I am one of the fortunate ones, and I realize that. But as each month, every time I count up, I also know I'm counting closer to the next treatment. I will start my 66th cycle of Ibrance and Faslodex this Friday. And I just celebrated my 5th year with MBC and my 10th year with breast cancer. So I do feel fortunate. It has afforded me a community of people that I didn't know. And working in healthcare, I always thought, okay, if you go have a mastectomy, you won't need all these extra things and that the cancer won't come back. But as I learned, depending on the type of cancer you have, things change. With my lobular cancer, and even though I do imaging, I'll tell you it's very hard to see and detect. So it's not always detectable on imaging. So I feel like that's why I had the stage I did at diagnosis, because we were unable to see it in 2014. And I just feel fortunate that we caught it early in 2019. So my only thing that I would say to you, if you're listening, is please make sure you know your body. You know when something feels right or don't. Be your own advocate. If you know something is not right, it doesn't matter what age you are, keep going back to your healthcare professional, because I feel like I saved my own life back then, because who would have known if I had not kept insisting for them to check me, even though the imaging wasn't matching or the diagnosis, and they told me you couldn't have pain with the cancer. For SBC, I've done different podcasts for them. I currently help moderate their Thursday Night Thriver group on the first and third Thursday of the month. On the first Thursday, we do a group. On the third Thursday, we have, is she a counselor? Is that right? We have a counselor now, or a
Yes,
social worker
yes.
that comes in and moderates for us. If you're living with MBC, we encourage you to join our Thursday night group and make some friendships and make some bonds out there. I also was a Hear My Voice advocate in the class with Sheila in 2022, and I've served on several different advocacy. You can pick how active you want to be or how inactive, but truly advocate for yourself. One of my most favorite things that I've done thus far is I've served on the DoD as a grant reviewer. There, it's looking at different research. So there's so many different options out there. Just make sure when you're using a resource that it's something that's credible.